Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got 5 more super cool knives that you can actually get your hands on. I've got a wide variety today, ranging from inexpensive to pretty expensive, but surely something for everybody. I'll link everything right down below in the description so that you guys can check them out if you want. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex, and at least for the time being on TikTok at the_metal_complex. So what do we have today? Let's start off with something inexpensive and definitely cool. This is the new CJRB Pyrite Bowie. Now, if you've been a member of the knife community for any amount of time, you've heard CJRB Pyrite. And perhaps you've looked at it and thought, yeah, it's okay, it's kind of boring. For one reason or another, you didn't pick it up. For a lot of people, the Bowie blade is going to be that reason to pick it up. This has the sand polish on it, which looks particularly beautiful, especially with that reflective fuller there. It's legitimately the same knife, but with the Bowie blade. Now, if I may, use the link in the description and go look. One of these versions is black with a rose gold blade, making it, I think, one of the most interesting budget knives in the entirety of the knife world right now. I did not know that that existed until literally 10 minutes before this video. I just thought, oh, the Bowie blade is really cool, right? And there's a whole bunch of different configurations. This model in and of itself is legitimately one of the best budget knives that you can get with the AR RPM 9. And you can do the thumb slot with the sheep's foot blade, or you can do the thumb stud version. You can do steel handles. You can do G10 handles. I mean, there's a million different options. But that black and rose gold version with the Bowie blade, holy moly, that is super cool. For about $60. Pretty darn good deal and an awesome knife. I'm a big fan of the Bowie blade in general, and I find it far more interesting than the standard sheep's foot or drop point blade. Awesome. Moving on here to the next one. This is, in my opinion, a wild departure from what we normally see from Sevi, but I welcome it. Holy moly, this monster is the Sevi RS71. Now, it does have, it's very weapony, right? Essentially what we've got going on here is a very aggressive swedge. It looks like it's perfectly symmetrical, but it's actually intentionally off to one side so that we have the ability for this hollow grind. Yeah, it's hollow grind. This hollow grind to actually have prominence, right? There's enough room for that to taper down to an impressively thin edge. This is definitely a poker, but it does slice. It absolutely is capable of some decent slicing. In fact, I was pretty impressed. Really, really sharp. Or really, really thin behind the edge. Obviously, anything can be sharp. But I like this sort of kind of daggery look, right? I've always loved, in particular, I've always loved the old school swivel guards and the swing guards. I like designs that kind of have these hand guards coming off to one side. And even though admittedly it does kind of get in the way when you're choking up on it, the look of this knife is super cool. Oftentimes, the stuff that we see that looks like this is the really cheapy, junky crap that you see on Amazon, or it's the stuff that's at the gas station counter. And I like the aesthetic or the style, right? The lines and everything. What I don't like is the really, really cheap build quality, the really cheap materials, right? Just kind of the lazy looking for a buck build quality. So to have something like this from Sevi that's also monstrous, because this thing is huge. Right. I'm not saying cold steel Espada XL huge, but 9¼ inches with a 4-inch blade. A big guy that honestly ends up being really compact. Yes, you can use that little lever over here to front flip it. You can use the thumb stud. Got to watch where your finger is back here because this other tab comes around. You can also reverse flick it if you want to, which works really well. Or you can do what everybody's going to do and just flip it. It's very comfortable. I love the layered G10. We have kind of the ivory and the black. This is a huge milled steel clip. There's actually a lot of things here that are kind of above and beyond for what we normally expect from Sevi. So it's large, it's got a Nitro V blade. We got the two-tone G10 with some texturing here. We have steel liners, right? That's pretty standard backspace. And then we have that milled steel clip. This guy comes in about $90, which is high for Sevi, but then again, looking at this, I feel like they did go the extra mile. And honestly, cool factor on this knife in particular is just I love this. I think this is so cool, and I love that Sevi is willing to take a few risks here and there with designs and just make things that are a little weird. It really is a super satisfying flipper and not bad on the price tag. Moving on here to something that is more expensive but definitely impressive. This is the new Artisan Cutlery Ornis. A lot of these knives you haven't even seen me unbox yet because all my content's pre-recorded. This one's coming up. We also have the sand polish on this blade. This is where Artisan Cutlery really shines. They have a nice sort of, I don't want to say generic EDC profile, but an obviously, more tool-oriented profile with this sort of sheep's footy blade. Beautiful finish. It's a button lock. They do a great button lock, really nice. But it's S90V, properly heat-treated S90V milled titanium pocket clip, and they've got it at $199, which is a lot of money for a pocket knife. But when you compare the materials here, S90V, in my opinion, is one of the best super steels that you can get on a pocket knife in general. The edge retention is just off the chart. So getting S90V with titanium and an actual quality build for under $200 is pretty awesome. There's only a few companies doing that right now. Artisan Cutlery is one of them. This is a Dylan Mallory design, which I actually didn't realize until well into the unboxing, but I love the blade profile. The ergonomics are fantastic. That pocket clip is nice and short. Thank you. That makes it so much more comfortable. Really, really cool. $199 in my opinion, well worth it. Moving on here, this one definitely cool factor as well. This is the new Vosteed Psyop. It comes in a couple different configurations. I personally really like this black and bronze. But we have a nice drop point blade with a big forward twirl, plenty of room there to get your finger in, and it does of course have the opening hole. So you can do your fancy reverse flicks, you can do your thumb flicks, all of that. You can even front flip it if you really want to, right? Love the titanium scales, love the sort of, it's not shadow box, it's just like a perimeter that they've milled into the titanium, and then they've done sort of this like cross hatch pattern. It looks really good. I like the contrast with the matte bronze. It's got a titanium pocket clip, titanium backspacer. But I think my favorite part here is actually the fact that it's a button operated liner lock and not a plunge lock. Not only does it give it a proper detent, because there's an actual detent ball and not just the plunge lock sliding into this cylindrically carved out portion of the blade, but also the lockup reliability on something like this is going to be a lot better than a generic plunge lock. And companies are getting a lot better, and I think maybe paying a lot more attention to their plunge lock geometry. But personally, I love the operation of button locks. I just don't always trust the geometry. I do, however, trust a liner lock a little more while they still can absolutely disengage. It's, we've had a few decades to figure out how to make a liner lock work correctly, and they just seem to be a little more solid. Also just a lot more satisfying on deployment. This is probably one of Vosteed's most interesting premium knives, and the other thing that I really like about it is it's actually a full-size knife. We had a long period of time there in the knife world. I'm not saying that full-size knives weren't being made, but man, all these companies were just like, hey, let me throw this out here. What if we bring another micro knife to the market? Wow, wouldn't that just be great? Yeah, well, we only have 70 billion of those, so yeah, you know what? Toss another one in the mix. I got so sick of it. I'm just glad that we're finally getting some more full-size folders out there. Obviously, that comes down to preference, but this is 8 inches with just shy of a 3.5-inch blade. I like that. A lot of people I know like that. It's just a really cool knife. $250. It's LMAX, and to my knowledge, I actually did try to scratch this blade on the unboxing. That's real DLC, so that's kind of cool. You can get it in DLC or not DLC, but I was unable to scratch this with a steel bit on the unboxing, which, by the way, is still coming up. Last but certainly not least, this is the most expensive knife on the list, but I think for good reason. It is super impressive. This is the new special edition WE Nitro OG. Wow. I said in the unboxing, which again, you guys haven't seen yet, there are certain WE knives that release and they definitely have a little bit of magic sauce in them. I am very, very familiar with WE knives and their build quality. I can't tell you how many WE knives I've handled over the last 6 years on this channel, but certain WE knives drop and they must be changing machines, they must be updating machines, they must be changing processes, because a few of them, right, like the Wii Solid, which is a GTC collab, has a little bit, I think it's the Cybernetic and the Solid, both had a little bit extra in them, and they were noticeably higher quality than standard Wii knives. And not just like, oh, we put a special finish on it or something. I mean everything. We're talking finishes, we're talking detent, overall feeling, just everything. This is one of those knives. It has that magic sauce. I don't know what it is. The action is ridiculous. This is a Peter Carey design, I think, based on the Cayman, but it's also very large. We have this beautiful hand-rubbed satin finish blade. We have absolutely stunning. It's like a glass blasted and then eggshell textured titanium, which really is nice. It has some high reflectivity to it. I love the aluminum carbon fiber mascus that they're doing here for the scales. By the way, that polishing goes all the way through and extends even to the back spacer. You also have these little bowls milled out on the pocket clip that have been anodized, and it contrasts really nicely with all the blue here. Now, these come in a few different configurations. The one you're seeing here is actually the least expensive at $314. And normally I criticize Wii knives once they get above $300 because they're not really delivering, most of the time, a $300 knife. In this case, yeah, I think they are. This feels like a $300 knife. It feels like they're going above and beyond. And on top of that, it's also a big boy. Not saying size is always, going to drive the price point, but sometimes it's nice to get a full-size knife with that full-size price tag, right? Not everybody's beating down doors to pay over $300 for pocket knives, but if you're watching this channel right now and going, why would this guy show such expensive knives? I can say this now. I have 500,000 subscribers, and I can promise you over the last 6 years on YouTube, uploading twice a day for a total of 4,100 uploads, that there are a crap load of people shopping in this territory and substantially higher. Not everybody needs to get there, and not everybody is there yet, but this is a healthy market for stuff like this. So whatever your preferences are perfectly fine, but you have to understand, somebody in my position, I show a lot of different stuff. I show a lot of different price ranges because not everybody's the same. Not everybody's budget's the same. Not everybody has the same interests. It might not make sense to you now, but I promise you, if you watch my channel for a while, it will at some point, even if you don't actually end up buying stuff like this. The whole point is to show variety, not to jam things down people's throats. I just really, a lot of you found my channel on YouTube Shorts. Not a lot of context there, right? So it can be a little bit jarring and a little confusing finding me after watching a YouTube short, but there's a lot more information here. So if you're familiar with this territory, right? If you're familiar with that $300 price point, this is really bringing some fire, right? It's really bringing a lot that I don't normally expect to see, and I am a huge fan of this one. And honestly, the price tag doesn't bother me. But for those of you not shopping in this territory, we have lots of other options here. Once again, the Wii Nitro OG. We have the Vosted Psyop at about $250. We have the Artisan Cutlery Ornison S90V for $199. We have the Sevi RS71 for about $90. And then we have the CJRB, again, really, for sure, check out the one with the rose gold blade. That's $59. Definitely an excellent EDC knife. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Each of these knives will be linked down in the description individually so you can check them out. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex, and at least for the time being on TikTok at _metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.